Warning: the following contains explicit language and subject matter that may not be suitable for younger listeners, church folk, and people who enjoy kale smoothies.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to A Pot Amongst Men. I'm your host, Steve B. This is Coffee Break Conversations for the 21st Century. This week, episode 63, this is my conversation with Corey Ryan Forrester. This is a big get for the podcast. He is part of the Well-Read Comedy Tour. He's part of a group of three guys. It's him, Drew Morgan, and Trey Crowder. You may know them as the Liberal Rednecks. They are the authors of the book, The Liberal Redneck Manifesto, Dragging Dixie Out of the Dark. They're also the host of the Well-Read podcast. Make sure you guys check this out. They did a great deep dive into the series Tiger King. It's called Tiger by the Tail. He's just a funny dude, man. I got to see him live. You know, they're all stand-up comedians. I saw them live at the Stress Factory in New Brunswick, New Jersey last summer. And Corey was kind enough to give me some of his time and actually chat with me, just, talking about his story, where he's from, what his journey's been like through the comedy world. He's just a stand-up dude, man. He was a good dude, and I really appreciate him coming on here. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Corey Ryan Forrester. I think they were up to like 9 or something.
Okay.
This is going to be 63, so.
Hell yeah, man. That's, hey, I don't know what the threshold is that once you break that, it's like, all right, we've done a thing. Because we were talking the other day, we've had 160, I think this week will be 166 episodes of just like this is a well-read podcast. But oh shit, I hit my mic. We've put out bonus content, and then we put 10 episodes out of Tiger King shit. So really, we've done more than 166 podcasts. But like for 166 consecutive weeks, we've put something out, and every single time, me and Trey are just like, dude, can you believe that we actually keep doing it? Because we're such quitters on everything else.
I'm amazed I'm still doing it myself, too. Is it any easier having 2 other people with you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Because, you're basically, if one person is having an off day or a bad day, they can kind of lay back.
Yeah. Well, even like as far as production goes and like
I do promotion. It all. So, no.
Oh, okay. So we're in the same boat then.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I was going to ask you about, like for the listeners' sake, is just kind of give a quick little background about, who you are, where you're from. I mean, I'm going to have an intro before this, but
for sure.
To hear it straight from the horse's mouth, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, man. My name is Corey Ryan Forrester. I'm a stand-up comedian from Chickamauga, Georgia, the hotbed for stand-up comedy, as everybody knows. Chickamauga, Georgia. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. That's what they say.
Some of the greats.
It's a small Civil War town in the pretty much the northest part of Georgia that you can be in. I'm like 10 minutes from Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is actually where I started comedy. It was a pretty unique upbringing for me specifically. What happened there?
Oh, that was my Bluetooth. I had music playing before you came in.
Worried
me for a second.
I feel like I was pretty lucky in my upbringing because my town that I grew up in, Chickamauga, Georgia, is very, very rural, very small town, very redneck, a lot of farmers, a lot of, people just shooting deer in your backyard. But because of where I'm located, I'm 10 minutes from Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is not like Atlanta or anything, but it's a city. Like it's a decent city. It's definitely on the come up. They're home of the literal fastest internet in the world. Like people are starting to know about Chattanooga. So I was able to have this quiet country little life. But also, if I wanted any type of culture, I'm 10 minutes down the road and I can have both of those. Whereas like so many people in the South, like if you live in the middle of the state, it's like 6 hours to anywhere that would have maybe a movie theater. But I got to kind of have best of both worlds. So that was my experience growing up. Also, sort of religious. I am from the Bible Belt. I'm from the buckle of the Bible Belt, or as I like to call the Bible elastic waistband, because we love Golden Corral.
Yeah, I was raised religious as well, and I fell out of that. In the words of George Carlin, I was Catholic till I reached the age of reason.
Right. So you were Catholic?
Yeah, Roman Catholic.
Yeah, Southern Baptist.
All right. Well, I think your credentials are a little stronger than mine in this aspect.
Maybe.
So
Catholics have been through a lot.
Yeah, so they like to say.
Yeah.
I've been through a lot of children.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. So, a lot of people know you from the Well Read podcast. Your partners, Drew Morgan, Trey Crowder. How did you guys come together to form a team, kind of become the Avengers here?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I want to say that we're going on. We've known this is year 10 of our relationship, knowing each other for 10 years. When we met, I had already been doing stand up for about 6 years. I'm in year 16 of stand up. I've been doing stand up exactly half my life, which is insane. So I'd already been doing stand up for like 6 years or so. And how it works in the South, in the Southern comedy circuit, because I know you're from Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in Jersey and in New York and in the surrounding areas, there's like a comedy club every 2 blocks. You know what I'm saying? Like you can go do a set right here, and then 5 minutes later you get done, you run over here and do a set. Well, in the South, how it works out is there's a club every major city. Not each major city has several clubs. Each major city has one club. Mm-hmm. So I lived in Chattanooga. Those guys lived in Knoxville, Tennessee, which are fairly comparable in size. Knoxville's a little bit bigger. So they had their comedy club, which was called Side Splitters. It is now defunct. I actually did the last show ever at that club. So if you ever want your club to fucking close down, hire your boy. So they would have their shows there, and I was at the Comedy Catch. And because you can't work the same room, like once you work the same room a couple weeks in a row, it's like that all of a sudden next month there starts to get repeat customers, and you're like, man, I still haven't got that joke ready, but I know that this audience has heard it. So you got to move on to another club. Like in wrestling, you'd go to a different territory once they'd seen you too many times. So basically, I would do a bunch of shows at the Comedy Catch in Chattanooga, and then I'd be like, all right, it's time to go work Knoxville next weekend and do their open mic. And those dudes would do the same thing. And then at a certain point, we all got to be like, hey, we formed a little community, and it was like, hey, how about Knoxville comes down here this Saturday, and Chattanooga, we'll go up there, and we'll all be there doing this open mic, and it'll be fun, and we can hang out and meet new people. So we would just kind of pass each other that way. And then basically for all of us, it was just seeing each other's sets, because we were all three, we're all three very Southern comedians, but, we were friends with everybody. It's not like we were just like, until I met these people, I didn't have a friend in comedy. That's not true. But until I met these dudes, I'd never seen anybody doing comedy the way I was doing it, which is like, Trey likes to say this a lot, but it's just true. In the South, doing stand-up, there's basically 2 types of ways people do it. You either lean into the accent super hard and go full cable guy, which is fine. I like Larry the Cable Guy. It's no problem. Or Southern comedians, they want their audience to take them seriously and so they drop the accent completely because they don't want to be associated with the South, because they know that some people think that means you're dumb. Like David Cross, for instance, is from fucking Georgia, but nobody would consider him a Southern comedian because he does not sound like he's from the South. And dude, he had to work on that.
He's got the opposite of a Southern accent.
And that's on purpose.
Yeah,
and that's on purpose. So what we found out is that we were doing neither one of those things. Like, we weren't going full cable guy. We were talking about stuff that we wanted to talk about. We were talking about the things that David Cross wanted to talk about, but we were like, fuck that, I'm not losing my accent. This is how I sound. Mm-hmm. I don't give a shit if your preconceived notions of me when I start talking or this guy's going to be dumb. If you just listen to me for a little bit, you'll find out that that's not true, or you'll be convinced that you were 100% right. So basically, I saw those 2 dudes doing a similar, it's not that we all have the same type of act. That's not the case. But the subject matter was similar. They were challenging some things that a lot of the other comedians wouldn't talk about. And again, with my accent, it was someone that wasn't trying to hide it and be pretentious about it. And we all just met, and it was just like, I mean, not to be cliche or corny, but it was like that scene in Step Brothers where we're like, did we just become best friends? It really happened like that. And we just we all held on to each other, and we're like, it's only us 3. There's only us that's like this. We have to start writing together right now. So we weren't touring then because nobody gave a fuck about us and wouldn't give us a tour, wouldn't allow us to do that. But we started writing sketches, and that started our 10-year relationship that is still going. I like to say strong today. I don't know how they feel, but I'm having a good time.
And it is a relationship, Anytime you're in a partnership like that, it's It's got all the same kind of characteristics of a relationship, you know?
Absolutely, man.
So how did the book come about? You know, the book, The Liberal Redneck Manifesto, Dragging Dixie Out of the Dark. Bestseller in comedy on Amazon, if I recall.
Bestseller in comedy on Amazon, bestseller in culture, bestseller in politics.
Bestseller in hitting.
In hitting all of them, yeah. We had a good little run with that book. I'm actually in a house right now because of that book. Thank God. That book came about, but it's the quickest anything. I look at that book. Me and my wife were actually just talking about this the other day. When I see that book, I get so super emotional for a couple of reasons. Just because that book, to me, that's the BC. Everything on either end is the BC and AD of my life. And it was only 4 years ago that this thing was written, but so many things have happened to me and for me in the past 4 years that I almost can't imagine what my life was like before this. Until I go do an open mic in Chattanooga and hear the other comics talking about how they're getting paid $10 to go to a Chinese restaurant. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really glad we got that book. But it came about because Trey, he had a video go viral when he was talking about the transgender bathroom laws. And when it went viral, we'd obviously been working together a lot on stuff, and we had a weekly blog that we were doing. And so when his video went viral, he immediately had people like reality shows wanting to do shit with him, book publishers wanting to do stuff, blah, 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 blah. And our agent was like, hey, he's part of a writing team. If you guys, and the next thing you know, like literally that quick, the video goes viral. We have like a 2-week little tour, and then our manager's like, hey, you have an offer from Simon & Schuster. And I was like, hell, that's one of them that I know. I know that one, Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here saying, like, I don't read. I do read, but it's not like I know all the names of all the publishing companies. So when she said one that I knew that it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And
that's one of the bigger ones anyway.
Yeah. And so we were like, oh, great. And they're like, and they want you all three to write it together because they loved your blog. They love your style. And we're just sitting there like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. That's great. And then she told us the number, and I won't say it, but she told us the number, and we were all like, oh, okay, so we split that, and she's like, no, that's a piece, and we were like, and I mean, again, that started this, hopefully, the rest of my life, and so it was all from Trey's video. They were just like, man, then what a point of view these guys have, because it was like, again, they're like, these are guys from the South that are saying things that normally we don't hear that accent with. Mm-hmm. Or if somebody from the South has these ideas, they drop that accent. Yeah. So we want to hear more from them. And they allowed us pretty much complete creative freedom because we spelled a lot of stuff in the book wrong, but like on purpose. Like, not, we knew we were doing it. It was like, this is how we say it, and this is how you would spell it if we said it like this, and this won't mean as much if it's spelled the correct way because that's not how we say it. So we had our editor, we were just like, look, we're going to take a lot of liberties, and you're just going to need to fucking trust us and go with it. And she was great, and she did. And so, yeah, I mean, it came about in a very lucky moment that we took advantage of and kept our foot on the gas, because it would have been easy for, there's people that go viral every day. But then you'll never see that person again. It's because Trey was also a talented person who had been doing stand-up for a while, that when he went viral, he's like, well, I'm not just going to sit here and let this video keep getting clicks. I'm going to put out another one. We're going to work on this tour. I'm going to engage with the fans, and we've got a shot here, guys. We finally got that one. We got that one pop, and everybody is seeing us right now. And if we can do something else that's really good while we have all these eyes, then they will stick with us, and they'll hang out and want to see more from us. And that's happened.
Well, I kind of like that about you guys, is that, like, Trey was the one, he had the viral video, but it's like you guys still seem, from the outside, you guys still seem like a team. Like, it's just
we
the
are.
three of you. It's not like Gwen Stefani and No Doubt where, she gets popular and leaves everybody behind. You know what I mean?
Dude, I mean, when we were coming up, and I mean, to a lot of people, I'm sure, said this and just didn't mean it. It was at certain points, we all had a moment that it looked like it was about to pop off for each of us individually, and then it did happen for Trey. And our whole thing was always, all of us don't have to make it, just one of us does, and then they'll take the other two. Because, when you go on a comedy tour, you need openers and middles and stuff like that. And that was always the thing. No matter who pops, that person takes the other ones with them, and it just gives us a better chance, you know. Like it's like when people go fucking buy a lottery ticket and they're like, hey, if I win I'll give you half, and if you win you'll give me half. We just increased our odds right there. Like, why wouldn't you do that? And Trey is to a fault a lot of times one of the most loyal. I mean, that's a very Southern thing. He's loyal to a fault, and he is, and he's like, you guys are coming, and wrote the book together. I mean, I think we compliment each other, and he's fucking lucky to have us, but still. But yeah, man, no, we're still boys, dude. I mean, we recorded our podcast earlier, and when we click unrecord, we sit there and the catching up that we can't have done on the podcast, you know, we sit there and talk and, you know, and text every day. Like, we've been even when we're off the road and it's not a pandemic, when we're just on a break, like, we'll usually leave each other alone for about 24 to maybe 48 hours. And then after that, it's like, boom, 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 boom. We're spending the whole day texting, and our wives are like, y'all, we're just with each other. And it's like, yeah, but this is funny. He's going to really love this. I need to send Trey this link. Sorry, I just hit my microphone again. I can't quit.
Nah, it's all good. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
But it's great when you find when you find friends where you guys have like that similar line of thinking, and it's like,
yeah,
even when you're not with them, you know what? He's gonna get that. Drew's gonna understand this. So
absolutely, yeah, it's really it's kind of depressing sometimes, because like I do feel like, especially because we can get mad at each other sometimes, but I think that's why we make up so quick, is because we'll get mad at each other and then realize like, oh man, I've got other friends, but no one that understands me like these motherfuckers. Absolutely. That's so unfortunate. Like, it's just very true.
I used to be in bands, and the last band I was in was a cover band, and you know, we would get in arguments sometimes. Cover? Oh, like pop stuff, you know, like top 40. Yeah. We just got to play the bars, especially around like the Jersey Shore and stuff.
Yeah,
and
nice.
You know, my best friend and I were the two that started it, and you know, there's times when we disagreed about stuff. You'd even like, we'd be setting up on stage, and one of my guitar players would it was a thing. He would always like not change his strings, and we used to always break his balls. Like, dude, you know, this is a professional thing. You got to do it.
Right.
But it was like, we would argue about stuff like that, and then as soon as it was over, we'd be like, all right, cool, man, let's go load out, let's have a drink, you know.
Sure, yeah.
It's like, you always come back to that camaraderie, the brotherhood,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's you know, similar in a lot of ways, but you know, with the comedy, I feel like you guys are all up there alone, one at a time. Yeah. So it's a little different, but you still maintain, you know, a unit. It's not something you see a lot. I really like that about what you guys do.
Yeah, man,
you know,
it's
a package deal.
We are a package deal, and a lot of things we do all three have some individual projects. That we were supposed to be working on right now, but then there was a pandemic. But we still ultimately are a package deal.
So normally, how many weeks a year are you guys usually on the road?
40 maybe, something like that.
That's a lot.
Yeah, a lot. I would say that's during a pretty busy year. Yeah, probably something like 40. And then I'll do some stuff like when the guys are like, oh, I'm taking this week off or whatever, I'll do some individual stuff, and so will they. Like, we'll do some colleges or whatever. But yeah, 40 is about right. And then I'm on the road more than them, just because they both live in LA, and a lot of those times that we are off the road, it's specifically so that we could work on writing stuff or to do pitch meetings in LA. And so I'll have to fly out and be in LA for a couple weeks, or sometimes I've spent as much as 2 months in an Airbnb out there. So sometimes it's rough.
So now the reason I asked that is because you just got married. That was last year, correct?
We're coming up on the second anniversary on June 2nd, right, babe? She's asleep, but I think it's June 2nd.
The reason I asked, I was in a long distance relationship too. Like, me and my wife, I lived in Jersey, she lived in Miami.
Oh, wow.
We did that for a couple of years. So it's I haven't really got a chance to talk to anybody else who's done it. I mean, I don't know if that really counts, because you guys are from the same area, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I do it when I come home. She is here.
But so what is that like? You know, you being on the road all the time. Like, how do you guys deal with that? Like, do you have little, you know, methods that you use?
Yeah, I can. So, you know, we've only been together for 2 years. So ask me this in 20 more years, and I may have a completely different thought process on it. But the reason that me and her got married in the first place and that we work so well is that she is a supremely independent human being. who doesn't need my ass around all the time. And not that if we were around each other all the time that she'd hate me, but she does her own thing. She's got her friends. She likes to read. She doesn't need me to fulfill her. I hope I do, but she doesn't need that. And if she wasn't that, I mean, this could not have worked because I'm gonna be gone, and it's one of those things where, you know, like if you want, like, I would date girls and they would be like, oh, I don't know why you can't stay home. And I was like, well, if I stay home all the time, then I don't get to take you to eat ever, because that's how I make money. And she just gets that. And I do think that there is part, because I'm not gone as much as, you know, like during the fall, I'm gone a fuck ton, but like we get to spend we usually take off a little bit during the summers. Comedy's not as hot in the summers, and she's a teacher, so like we'll get a vacation in a year, even if it's just like, you know, going to the lake or something for a couple days. So we do get to spend a lot of time together, and I think that it's, you know, absence truly does make the heart grow fonder. It's nice to miss each other sometimes, because, you know, I'll be on the road for a couple weeks, and then I'll start missing her, and I'll get home, and I'll be home for 5 days, and I'll start making her mad. But right before we really get into the fight, I get on a plane, and then it's all forgotten when I get home.
Yeah. I don't have that option to just be gone for weeks at a time.
Yeah,
I have the garage in behind the house.
Yeah.
Where I am now, where I get to decorate all my nerd shit out here.
Yeah, I got the attic where I normally am.
So, how long were you guys actually together before you got engaged?
Before we got engaged, we were together for 2.5 years.
Okay, so
yeah,
we're in similar boats here. Yeah. When you're out on the road now, like I know you guys talk a lot about, like, you know, drinking, partying on the podcast. Has at any time has any of that ever been like a problem where you felt like you had to dial back on anything?
Yeah,
like,
constantly. I always assume that no matter what I'm drinking and doing, that it should be less or none. So, but yeah, I mean, we'll go. I'm a very bingey type person, regardless of what it is. Like, I'll go through a spell where for like 2 months straight, I will do nothing but make my own broth and ramen noodles and stuff, like get super into one specific thing. And sometimes it's like, so when I start drinking, I can go a couple weeks and not have a beer at all, but then if I decide to have one, we're gonna have 38. But then the next day I'm not like, oh, I can't get out of bed without my drink. But like sometimes, man, it's like, especially on the road, the problem is we'll go, you know, let's say we're first night back on tour. We want to celebrate. Cheers, brother. First night back on tour, we want to celebrate because we hadn't seen each other in a week or something like that. And then we get hammered drunk. And then the next day, we're about to do the show, and we all feel like shit. And we go, man, these people paid their fucking money to see a goddamn show, and the only way that I'm not going to feel like shit is if I get drunk again. And then once you start that cycle, you can't take a night off. Yeah. Like, you can't just decide, well, fuck this city, they're getting the hangover sober show, I'm not going to do it. So, and doing stand-ups completely sober, it's not fun. I don't think I'll ever do it. I honestly would rather only do it till I'm 70 and at least have a couple beers before every show than do it until I'm 90 and be sober. So I'll take them 20 years. Fuck it. I don't care. But you know, drugs
just a couple beers. That doesn't count as a non-sober show, right?
No, not at all. Yeah. Not at all. But as far as drugs go, like I'm done with that chapter of my life. Like when I say drugs, I mean like actual narcotics, like you know, fucking weed after the show. No big. Of course, I'm going to do that. I want to go to sleep and like weed, mushrooms, shit like that. But as far like, you know, when I first started in comedy, I wasn't successful. But when I first started in comedy, there was a lot of, especially because I'm from the South, where the opioid crisis really, you know,
absolutely
that ground zero for that shit.
Yeah,
there was a lot of pills, a lot of pills, and I got the combo that I liked, and I got, this isn't something I came up with, but there was this when I started comedy, I was 16. And so, and all the other dudes doing it were like in their 40s and 50s in the South. So all my buddies were like 40 and 50-year-old road dogs. And I remember when I got to my 20s, I was doing drugs before shows because, like I said, I was so hungover from the night before that I had to get back up again. And the combo was this dude would take Adderall, Xanax, and hydrocodone, and he would crush them all together in like a mortar and pestle into one powder, and then you just snort that. And the thought process was the Adderall kept you super focused and kept your energy up. The Xanax relaxed all your nerves, and the hydros are just fucking fun to take.
Jesus.
So
you would think some of those would offset each other.
You would think, but man, it was good stuff. But that's not a part of any of our lives, or coke or anything. But there ain't nothing wrong with weed. And every now and then, if we have like a day between stops on the tour, we'll take some mushrooms and go to a music festival or some shit like that. But like boozing, none of us are alcoholics. We have this conversation all the time. Like if we weren't on the road, like I'm not really drinking since the pandemic when I'm at home, because I'm like, whatever, I want to just wake up and go on about my day. But on the road, it's a different. I think, maybe we're like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In our normal lives at home, not alcoholics. On the road, we turn into full bore alcoholics, because again, it's just that cycle. You get drunk the first day, and then, what the fuck are you going to do the next day?
Yeah.
Not feel good? That's gifts. Ugh.
It's not like I had shit to do during the day,
Exactly. I'm going to take a nap.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, the only thing I struggled with was like smoking cigarettes and everything. So
yeah, and I quit those.
Really, I'm struggling, man.
Thanksgiving, I'll be 2 years.
Congratulations.
Yep,
that's a good one. My problem is I work in construction, so there's always somebody around with a cigarette. Even if I just have one in a week, like I still feel bad. I'll come home, my wife will smell it in my my facial hair.
Yeah, I was that way because of the road. Like I tried to quit so many times, but then I'd go on the road and like every comedian was smoking a cigarette. So I frankly got lucky, and it was during Thanksgiving. We were about to. We were on our last show before we took a little Thanksgiving and holiday break type situation, and it was our last show before that, and I got sick as a dog. Like my throat was killing me, and so I literally couldn't smoke. And so I was like, hey, quit smoking cigarettes right now. You're sick and you can't. So quit, and you're about to be off the road, so you're not going to be tempted. And that was Thanksgiving of 2018, and I haven't had a cigarette since.
Oh, that's great, man. Because I've done the same thing, and it's not worked.
It's hard.
It's
really
hard.
I would never quitting cigarettes just because I've done it. I've been successful for over a year, which it's good for in the cigarette world, because I'd quit for 4 months before that and thought, well, I got it licked. I hadn't had one in 4 months. So I know that a year and a half does not mean I got it licked. It's a constant everyday struggle. Yeah. So I would never, even though I've been fairly successful, I would never look at someone and go, all you got to do, I don't fucking know. All I know, it worked for me just to get sick and then have a break from the road. That was what I needed.
I try to explain it to my wife all the time. Like it's something that never goes away. It's
never.
Like you said, it's like, I don't know what to do. This is what I did. It seems to be working. I'm not smoking. I don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring.
I will tell you that the best advice I got, and I still do this every day, is that you never say I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. You say I'm not smoking cigarettes today. And so I mean, it's the most cliche, one day at a time. But if you tell yourself that, then I guess it tricks you into thinking, well, one day. Yeah. I can maybe have another cigarette, but today is not that day. So I do that almost not every day. I don't think about cigarettes every day, but when I'm drinking, I definitely do. When I'm drinking, I'll think about cigarettes, and I'll just go, no, you can't have one today, and then I won't, and then tomorrow I'll do the same thing.
For me, it wasn't even so much the drinking; it was more being at work.
Yeah,
because working on a construction site is you could light up whenever you want. So,
I used to paint. It was the same way, and. It was also just a reason to stop working for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And you need that.
A lot of us, we work right through. We'd be trying to friggin' run wires, getting smoke in our eyes and shit.
Right.
Like fucking apprentices.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't do what I do, and you say, I'm not smoking today. You say, oh, no, I quit smoking. Why, you got any on you?
Right. Exactly.
So, I know one thing that you've spoken about on the show. This is weird also, having you here, like, being a fan of the show, having listened to you for over a year now.
Thank you for that.
Oh, no problem, man. I enjoyed it. You guys get me through some pretty shitty days. So thank you.
Y'all get us through the shittier ones, I promise.
But it's one of those things where it's like I feel like I know so much about you guys from the show, and then you don't know me from Adam.
Sure.
So it's anyway. What I was going to ask is, you've spoken about like anxiety, dealing with failures and rejection and all that stuff. How have you grown as a person, so to speak, from dealing with things like that, the letdowns, and especially in your business, it could be pretty cutthroat. I've heard, of course. But has this taught you a lot about yourself? Have you had to grow thick skin? Have you had to develop more certain parts of your personality? Like, how have you dealt with this over the years now?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely given me thick skin because I have, as much as we self-deprecate ourselves and talk down about ourselves, that's just a comedian's way of doing things. But like, I have a very healthy ego about myself. Like I'm very, in my mind, I'm like, dude, you are fucking talented. You're good at what, otherwise you wouldn't dare attempt to do it. If you thought you weren't good, why would you try? Who would do that? But the thing that I've learned is when she's like, God damn. Out when I'm in LA, I'm like, boy, they're all good here. There's a lot of good. So you better be real fucking good. But like, yeah, getting told no now, that's like saying hello to me. I don't whatever. Because like it's just ultimately everything can't work. Like if you look at all the shows that are on TV, that's like any new show that you see that's about to air for the spring lineup or the fall lineup, whenever that happens, that is 5% of the shows that they actually bought and then somebody wrote a pilot for. Like they all got canned, so it's nothing personal.
There was a lot of shit that got thrown against the wall. And
that's
absolutely.
just what you're seeing. A lot of, and you know, their thing might only last one episode, and then you get another shot. So I've just had to stop looking at like the word. We're not going to do this is not failure, because like the fact that I was even in the room to be told no, most people will never be in that room, and I don't mean that in a shitty way.
No,
I just
but that's
mean
true.
that. I just mean that if I'm sitting there across from an executive at ABC, they only had one of two things to tell me, which was yes or no. And the fact that I get to hear either one of them means that I'm in the goddamn room. And so as long as I can keep being in those rooms, I mean, you know, if you get too many no's, I don't know if you'll be in that room too long. But yeah, man, it's just to keep trying. I don't get bummed anymore. And it's not also like, my expectations are still good. I don't go into stuff thinking like, well, this won't get made because nothing gets made. When it does not ultimately get made, I go, yeah, that makes sense. But like I'm working on like 6 or 7 projects right now. Ultimately, if just one of them went, everything would be great. But in my mind, they're all fucking 7 going to go, and I'm going to have to choose which one I do of the 7. Now, you know, we all know that's not going to happen. But in my stupid brain, I'm like, why wouldn't they? I wouldn't have worked on it if I didn't think it was good enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's made me have to, when someone tells me no, or when I get a script sent back to me for edits, or I get a sketch sent back to me with notes, that's not them saying, those notes are not saying, hey Corey, you're not funny. It's saying, hey, we weren't clear on this, and maybe it would be funnier if you did this, or can you explain this better? Like, I don't need to, you don't need to take everything so personally. And that's so hard because as comedians and artists, it's like, I put that on the page and that is exactly how that should be. Yeah. So if you fuck with it, but I have to be like, no, dude, they're not, they think you're funny. Otherwise they wouldn't be reading your sketch, you idiot. It's fine. They just weren't clear. You wrote a thing and it wasn't clear. That happens all the time. You know what you think is funny. Oftentimes that's not what everybody else thinks is funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that look at it as like, I put my heart and soul into that writing, and they're saying no. They're saying no to me. That's me. Yeah. They're saying they take it, too personal.
And you can't do that. You can't.
Was this like? Did you deal with a lot of that like when you were first starting, like in the early days? You said 16 years. Yeah, that's a long time to be doing anything.
Oh yeah. I mean, the comedy club owner, Michael Alfonzo, who was like my freaking stepdad. It felt like it during all those years because I was a young kid and he was the owner and booker of the Comedy Catch. Michael's from Jersey. I still love Michael this day. If he's for some reason, if he listens to podcasts now, which I doubt it, but it would mainly be from him. And yeah, every single time I would get off stage and he would give me a note or tell me a joke wasn't working or this bombed or that bombed and here's why this didn't work. It was all, I know now that he was literally he wasn't being a dick. He was trying to help me because I was going up on his stage and he'd been in the comedy business for 30 years and I hadn't. But dude, at the time, he was saying constructive things. What I heard was, why the fuck are you even doing this? You're not good.
Yeah.
And I'd get so defensive.
Did you ever go through anything where you felt like certain people that were, maybe that were you close with in life, they weren't being supportive when you felt they should have been, or just the people? one of the things I've noticed, like talking to other podcast hosts and stuff, a lot of people say that the people that were there, they're day ones. Like they're the ones that don't even listen to the stuff they put out. They don't even, like they don't really show the love. And I just for my best friend Drew, if he's listening, this is not targeted at him because he openly talks about how he doesn't listen to my show. But
I have a lot of buddies. I have a lot of buddies who don't listen to our podcast, but they also don't listen to podcasts in general. So I'm fine that they didn't go out of their way to hear my shit, and I don't take it personal on that regard because they all have still been very supportive of my dreams. Like when I was starting out and I needed people to be at the show, they were at the fucking show. But now that, because our shows always sell out in my hometown of Chattanooga, Tennessee, if they've got kids, they got stuff to do, they're like, hey man, people come to see you now. We're off the hook, right? And I'm like, absolutely. But if you do want to come, tickets are, they'll be at will call under your name. You got it. But it's just that they're we're in our 30s now and they're live. They're whenever they see like a press release and I got something new going on, they text me, screenshot, dude, fuck yeah, so pumped about it. But I get it. I don't listen to. I have a lot of comedian friends with podcasts. I don't fucking listen to theirs because I'm too busy doing mine. And my buddies they're at work, and then when they come home, their wife wants to watch something, and it's not my fucking podcast. So I get it. But yeah, man, there was I'm not gonna say their name, and I'm still friendly to them now, and they don't know that this is true. But the dude who I considered a best friend, like he was in my best friend's circle group. One day, just when I kind of started getting a little traction, I started getting paid, started making a little bit of money doing stand up. All of a sudden, he just wouldn't come around anymore, and I noticed that if I'd go to a party, all of a sudden he'd leave like 10 minutes later, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And one day I was with one of my other buddies, and I was like, hey man, what's been going on with insert name here? I don't really see him around anymore. She's like, dude, yeah, I didn't want to tell you, but like since you asked, he don't want to fuck with you no more. And I was like, what'd I do? Like I was like, oh my god, I must have done something. I must have got drunk and offended him or something. I was like, what'd you do? He goes, dude, I don't know. He's weird. Like we had a conversation not long ago, and he just said that he couldn't respect and hang out with someone who just told jokes on a stage for a living. Like he stopped respecting me because I wasn't used to. I worked during the day and at night did stand up, so it's like, oh, it's Corey's hobby. But once it just became the only, I think, and to me, I mean, does that not just sound like fucking jealousy? Like
it does, because it's not like stand up is like a new thing. You're not fucking Lenny Bruce,
right.
Like the first guy to really to do it the way we know it. Like you guys never heard of Richard Pryor,
right.
George Carlin, Robin Williams, like these guys. They became famous from doing that, and all of a sudden you have a problem. So it does stink of bullshit.
In his mind, it's just like I just went on stage and started talking, and I didn't do any prep work or anything like that. So they said that, and I was, dude. I mean, I was so hurt by that, like because I considered him like one of my best friends, but like just what a shitty thing. Like I don't give a fuck if any of my friends. I don't care what they do. They could all go to clown college tomorrow, and I'd be like, fuck yeah, man, you be the best clown you want to be, bro. I'm with you. And then a couple years later, we wrote the book and we got on The View and we got all this stuff. And I came home and my buddy Chris had like a kind of party for me because I hadn't been home in a long time. And this person was there and they came up and they hugged me and was talking about how they always believed in me and they always knew this moment was going to happen. And I had a choice right there. And I just said, hey man, I really appreciate you. I know you've always been my boy. And I hugged him because I was like, what's the fucking point? That motherfucker knows that ain't true. So I'm going to kill him with kindness. So yeah, it's happened. I don't give a shit anymore. I can't, dude. I love losing friends now. The older I get, the more I'm just like, oh, that person don't fuck with me. Don't care.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you're a better person than me. I don't know if I could have done that one. If I could have hugged that one out.
Well, I'll tell you why. It's because of how happy I was. Like that year that we wrote the book and went on The View and got a network deal and all this stuff. I was Teflon, dude. Like that. If I'd have found that out, like let's say our career goes in the toilet, and then I see him again and he starts, hey man, everything will be better. I'll probably snap. I'll probably be like, you don't know shit. I was just fucking being nice to you. You're lucky because I fucking knew at that moment. But like, buddy, I literally, especially that year, I'd gotten married. Like you could not hurt my goddamn feelings.
just very low on the list of things that mattered, right?
Didn't matter because again, I was smart enough to know like that came from jealousy.
We're getting close to the end here. I want to make sure I get you out of here on time.
Sure.
You're a big wrestling fan, right?
Yeah, huge.
My good friend, Tim Disbrow, he's been on the podcast before. He's a filmmaker. He did a film a few years back about independent wrestling.
Which one was it?
It's called Card Subject to Change. I know it was on Amazon Prime.
It still is on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Because I haven't watched it yet, but it is on it's queued or whatever.
So you're still currently like a fan. Like I haven't watched in years. I know my son wanted to do it. He keeps, for whatever reason, anytime I'm laying on the couch, he likes to kind of elbow drop me and just shout John Cena. I don't even think, is that even his move? I'm not sure.
No, I mean it's not. Now the elbow drop has kind of just become it's in everybody's set list now, I guess.
It used to be Macho Man, but
oh yeah, Macho Man used to throw it really good. Dusty Rhodes was the best. But no, dude, I still absolutely watch. I did a podcast last night, a wrestling podcast last night, and it was tremendous. I watch all the time.
I forget what I was doing. I lost my train of thought on that one.
No problem.
But, I was big back in the days when NWO first came out. The red and black and white.
Oh, that was my shit. That was the peak and heyday of my shit for sure.
I agree. I had all the shirts and stuff like that.
Me too.
We would sign our yearbooks, so like we had to have code names
for life.
Yeah. When Goldberg first came out, that was amazing.
Oh, he was my shit, dude, because he went to the University of Georgia and played football, and that's my favorite school. And also Goldberg was a wrestler that I was allowed to like because he didn't curse and do none of that suck it stuff that was so popular. So yeah, I was really big on Goldberg back in the day, man. Matter of fact,
he barely even spoke.
Never. He just ran out there and speared you and fucking left. Now, it's funny. Goldberg is the reason that me and my dad had to have the talk. And when I say the talk, I don't mean the sex talk. I mean the talk that every young wrestling fan eventually has to have with their father when they have to explain to them that, son, this is a work. This is not real. It's the same exact thing as Santa Claus. Like, your whole world is snapped, and then you kind of start hating that thing for a while. Like, when you're a kid and you get told Santa Claus isn't real, you fucking hate Santa Claus after that, and you think it's childish and stupid. And then one day, you see Santa Claus for what he actually is, a symbol. And it's okay that he's not real because he brings joy to so many other people. And with wrestling, it was... I was like, oh, wait, I know it's not real, but neither is what I do on stage. It's just an act. There's no different. This is a show. Matter of fact, I'm kind of more impressed by these dudes now, being able to choreograph all that stuff and make me believe it was real. But like let me go back to saying what I was saying. When Goldberg got tased, that was the moment. He got tased.
Broke my heart.
Dude, I was in 5th grade, so showing my age a little bit. He got tased, and I was like, what? Because the streak's over? No. I'm running around. I'm screaming. I'm like, Scott Hall's a piece of shit. He was in a security guard outfit. I'm trying to get the number for the athletic commission so that I can call them because this isn't right. If the referee had seen it, I'm cursing like crazy. My mom's freaking out, and the only way that my dad could get me to calm down was by explaining to me that, like, don't worry, Goldberg's fine. And I was like, no, he's not. How could he be fine? And Dad's like,
hit with a fucking cattle prod.
Yeah, exactly. And Dad's like, well, here's why he's fine. And I was like, oh, bro.
Just mind shattered.
Yeah, so now I'm back in. And honestly, I'm probably more of a fan because when you get older and you're not like, you know the illusion's not there. You can still get lost in it every now and then, but you also have way more of appreciation, especially me as a comedian, for the business side of it and like what all goes into it. So yeah, man, I'm fully back in.
I think there's nothing wrong because it's like you can watch a soap opera, you can watch a reality show. We know all that stuff's scripted. This just means they have to have the added physicality.
Yeah, they have to be athletes
and to make it look real.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
So I think that was always my excuse. Like, well, you watch these shows, like those aren't real, but you entertained by that. What's wrong with this?
There's nothing wrong with it. It's great. It's highbrow art, in my opinion.
I remember when I was a kid, we went on a family trip to Las Vegas.
Ooh.
But that was when they still had the Nitro Grill at the...
Yeah, boy.
What's the name of the Excalibur or something?
Yeah, Excalibur. I played there, actually.
It was. I got to go there. I had my Monday Night Jericho shirt on.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I was so psyched. And then we got the food, and I was like, all right, so just kind of sit here.
Yeah.
Not really anybody here.
No one's going to power bomb somebody into my nachos. What's happening?
Yeah, all the waiters seem generally disgruntled.
Yeah.
So the last thing, I'm going to make sure I get you out of here. I know I sent this to you earlier. I do a segment on the show called Humble Pie, where I ask my guests and myself to share embarrassing stories.
Yeah.
This I just find it fun at this point now, but it's really good because it reminds us all, like, embarrassing shit happens to every single one of us. Yeah. And nobody's above it. So do you have one ready, or do you want me to go first?
Oh, I've got a couple ready.
Okay.
I couldn't decide which one was the most embarrassing. One time I was on a date. I'm just going to rapid fire give you all three. One time I was on a date with this girl who was way out of my league, and I was trying to impress, and I was like halfway through the date, and I thought everything was going awesome, and we were taking a walk from the restaurant to this ice cream place, and I got violently attacked by a swarm of bees, and while being attacked by the bees, I ran into a tree. So that didn't hit. Another one, and this is a little bit dirtier. I was on a first date with a girl, and it had gone so well that she was down giving me the what for, and I farted directly into her face. And so didn't see her again. And probably the most embarrassing on, like, just so humiliating and such. It sums up who I was at the very beginning of our tour. All this had kind of just started to happen. And so I went from someone who was just doing open mics, and I was working weekends and making a little bit of money, but realistically I'm still painting houses to support everything. And now all of a sudden we got a book deal and blah, 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 blah. And so I'm hanging out. It's me, Drew, and Trey, and I think a bunch of my friends, and there's a bunch of people around. And I get a phone call on my cell phone, and I guess this is right when Apple had started doing that, like, caller ID, where even if you didn't have their number, it would say something like, maybe John, or something like that. And this one said, maybe Chattanooga Times Free Press. And I was like, oh, and my friend's like, who was it? And I was like, sorry guys, it's the local newspaper. I'm sure they're gonna want to do. And I go through this whole fucking, like, I'm so, I'm sorry. Sorry guys, I'll be back in here in a minute, but they need my time. I mean, all these people are just dragging me this way and that way. I don't know what to tell you guys. You may never get to experience it in your life, but this is what it's like when you're a critically acclaimed author. I'll be right back. Hello? And then they could hear it on the other line where it says, it seems your subscription to the newspaper has ran out. Would you? And I was just like, I was trying to no-sell it, and they were just like all fucking dying laughing, and that humiliated me, because they still bring it up like all the time. They'd be like, hey man, you talk to the newspaper lately? And I'm like, fuck you.
You just reminded me of one I had a few years, like, but I'm a little younger, maybe about 25. I got in really good shape. I had been a little heavier. Majority of my life, and I was going to the gym. I was ripped. I was looking good, and I was super confident. So every year, my friends and I, we would always rent a house down the Jersey Shore at Long Beach Island.
Hell yeah!
And we were out at a bar one night. It wasn't super packed. There was just some people there, and I was sitting there having a beer. We were all talking, and the bartender comes up, and he puts an empty glass in front of me, and he says, the lady at the end of the bar wanted to buy you a drink. And here I am, feeling like hot shit. I'm like, well, that didn't take long. As if I was, like, expecting this. Of course it happened,
Yeah, of course.
So I looked down, and it was like, an older woman. She was pretty. And I was like, okay. So I get up. I'm starting to walk over there. And all of a sudden, my friends run up behind me. They're like, stop. I'm like, what? And they're like, dude, we did that. That was us, you fucking idiot. I'm like, oh. And I had been making eye contact with this lady the whole time. Like, fuck. I go back.
That's such a
like,
bummer.
They're just like, you're just a fucking dick. You know that?
See, and that's why I said earlier, I'm so fine with losing friends now.
Yeah. But that wasn't even actually my story. My story was it goes back to high school. So I had a crush on this girl. I was going to ask her to the homecoming dance. Mm-hmm. So I was terrified inside. I was nervous. I was sitting at the lunch table, and she was sitting like 2 tables over. And I'm like, all right, this is going to happen. And I told another friend of mine, and he was sitting there. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go up and tell her. Her name was Jerry. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, stop. You're going to ruin this whole thing for me. I'm just sweating, nervous. and all of a sudden he's just enjoying seeing me squirm.
Absolutely.
So he's just, "Hey Jerry," like really loud, and I was like, "You mother!" And I tried to like smack something at him, and I hit this. It was a Fruitopia bottle, and that shows my age a little bit.
Yeah, no, I remember him.
But either way, so it kind of flew at him, and he just did one of these and deflected it. And it just so happened that the janitor had been walking out from the lunch counter carrying his lunch, and all of a sudden just gets splattered in Fruitopia. And I was just like, no. And now everybody's looking at me, including the girl I wanted to ask. So like, which one of you's got me all wet? And they're all just, this guy. I was like, fuck. It wasn't, and I'm trying to like explain, and I'm tripping over my words. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, just do your worst. I get it.
That's such a bummer and so funny.
Needless to say, I did not get that date to the homecoming days.
You just douched the janitor with syrupy Fruitopia.
It was the green one too.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
It was not needless. What I did get was a week of in-school suspension.
That's always fun. You can find pills.
That was the only one there, surprisingly. I think we had one. Our high school was like a campus, so it was like 10 different buildings. So every building had its own different like punishment room. I was in there by myself, so at least it was quiet.
No doubt.
Nobody spilling my secrets. All right, so that's it, man. I just want to say I really appreciate you doing this. This means a lot to me. This is a big come up for my show, even.
Dude, shit. Thank you for having me on, man.
I appreciate everything, man.
Of course,
hopefully you guys are staying safe. Hopefully we'll get out of this pretty soon.
I haven't left the house, so I'm doing good. I think everything. I don't know how it's going to shake out, but we're trying. So yeah, we'll see. You too. Stay inside and all that good shit.
I gotta go to work every day. But yeah, again, dude, thank you. This is huge. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
This is cool, Going to see you guys at the Stress Factory, and I got you here.
I love that show. That we talk about it all the time. How that's the we don't really get heckled, but that's the only time we've ever been heckled. But it was in the meet and greet line, and it was just like these Jersey people would come up, and usually our meet and greet line, everybody's so sweet. It's all like Southern mammas and stuff. But like this, I remember this one Jersey dude came up to Trey, and he goes, "Hey, we were just over here talking. You look like a Nebuchadnezzar Jew. Doesn't he look like a Nebuchadnezzar Jew?" And everybody in line was just like, "He fucking does look like a Nebuchadnezzar Jew." And we're like, well, this is fucking awesome. We just got roasted the whole time.
Yeah, that's we definitely have some thick skin here from that shit all the time. All right, brother. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, man.
All right, dude.
All right, you stay safe. All right, there you have it. That was my conversation with Corey Ryan Forrester. Cool dude, man. Funny guy. Make sure you go subscribe to his podcast, Well Read Podcast, also with his co-hosts Trey Crowder, Drew Morgan, all three of them funny dudes from the South. Just it's good stuff, man. Like I said, I'm really appreciative of him giving us his time. He didn't really have to do it at all, but he was nice enough to do it, and we have a ton of love and respect going his way. So make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to it on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, all that stuff. Make sure you buy the book, The Liberal Redneck Manifesto, Dragging Dixie Out of the Dark. You can find it Amazon, anywhere you get your books. It's there. Also, if you like the show, make sure you subscribe to this podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is a big one. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, that's we're trying to really build that up, so we need your help. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can find us at apotamonksmen@gmail.com. So any long-form questions, make sure you send it there, and I will be sure to get back to you stat. So without further ado, or no, not without further ado, I guess I'll just see you guys next week. I don't really know what I'm saying anymore. Had a few of these, feel pretty good.